All right, thank you, Mayor. So Councilman Turner and Mayor Pro Tem Stowe are out of town today, so they won't be joining us. And Councilman Gadd just texted me, and he is stuck at work. So he was planning on being here, but he may not make it. So it'll just be the three of you.
It's good, Ryan, and I can make the decision.
So,
We're not asking for this.
with you, we're not asking for any decisions, don't need action from you. What we want to do is go over our updated 5-year capital improvements project program that Jerry and the staff have been working on. We sort of skipped through this last year, so we wanted to get back on it. As you know, part of the budget for this current year is implementation of the CIP program, and so we've knocked down a lot of the projects that were year one this year, and so we've got a whole list of them for the upcoming years, but we want to see if we want to make any changes to them, and so I'll turn it over to Jerry and let him guide us through the CIP. And this is going to be very informal, so please interrupt and ask questions, and if the department heads, anybody have questions, we'll just make this very conversational.
Just to remind you, we went through the same process that we've gone through several years. I contact staff, David, Chuck, police department, fire department, etc. We all get together as a group and then individually to come up with new CIP projects and also review the ones that are currently on the list to see whether their priorities have changed. I'll give you a copy of this, which is the CIP projects that we took care of or are underway this year.
Thanks, sir.
And if you take a look at this, you'll see we have quite a list of accomplishments here.
There's an extra one.
These are ones that are,
Put over here.
yeah, that's fine. These are the projects that you approved to be done this year, so, excuse me, last year. If you look at it, the majority of the projects include either equipment purchase or the public works facility. That's where the focus has been this last year. But there are some other projects that got completed. The dollar amount that's here, total dollar amount was almost $8 million. That was in 2018 dollars. So doesn't include the 3-year and 5-year loans that we've gotten for the public works facility. 20-year? 40-year. Better yet. So anyway, I just give you that to show you what we crossed off the list. So those projects, with the exception of maybe one, is not in the book. That one would be the water department, the laboratory, and all that, which they're just starting with. So do that. Then the next step was to come up with new projects. And so I made a list of all the projects that got added to the CIP document. Got lots of these extras. And you can see that there's significant projects. Fire department last year only had 2 projects on the list. This year they came up with an additional 4 other items, including the self-contained breathing apparatus, replacement of fire truck 433, land purchase for the North District Public Safety Facility. They want to we have the North District Public Safety facility's been on the CIP since, quite a while. And talking with Buck, decided that maybe one way of kicking that off would be to go look for land first and make sure we find the appropriate place. And then they also have a commitment for the fire rescue boathouse in conjunction with the rowing club. So those projects all got on, and You'll see the priority numbers, those were staff-driven numbers. So those are the 4 highest for fire department. And then they've got their usual, I think they had 2 other ones in the total list. The police department did not have any new projects this year. If you'll notice when you look at their list, the 800 megahertz vehicle radios is number 1, and that's followed by cars. Community enhancement, that's our planning department, downtown group. Several of these Adrian actually added into his budget last year, but I thought I would go ahead and put them in the book this year. South Point Road corridor study, that's obviously a traffic issue, and that was the amount of money that the city agreed to throw into a master plan by the county. Decorative street name signs, you've seen those all over town. David's done a great job with that. These would be for Wilkinson Boulevard. And we always put those decorative signs under community enhancement rather than the streets and park. Main Street informational kiosk, phase 2, we call it phase 2. Shelley and Phil wanted to put up a kiosk over in the Glenway parking lot so that people, when we encourage them to park there, then they could go to the kiosk and they could find out the information that they're looking for. City Hall renovations and Ford Center renovations, those are 2 items that Adrian had added to the list last year. Obviously, at the end of this year, presumably when we move most of the staff down to Public Works, then we'll have 2 vacant buildings. We need to decide how we deal with them. Norfolk Southern parking lot improvements. David spent a lot of time with the stone and gravel down there, leveling it out. He just spent some more time working on it in the last couple of weeks. But this is to actually pave, so it'll be after. And then the final one was the downtown parking garage. It's something that's been talked about for years and years and years. So Adrian had it on his list, so I put it on the list, and it's in the low on priority range there. We really haven't done anything about it, about where it would be, what it would be, but I think the intent was that that would be a partner situation with somebody. Parks and Rec, we had 6 new projects here. Probably the key one is the security cameras. Since those, been looking at those, and he's got that plugged in as a 2-year project. One, I think he hopes to get done in phase 1 yet this fiscal year. I don't know if he'll get that done or not, if there'll be money for it. But otherwise, he would do it over a period of 2 years. And was that like 75 cameras? Yeah.
No. Wouldn't that be cameras?
It's more like 25 or 30.
25 cameras, 24, 25 cameras. These would be cameras primarily at the athletic facilities we have, but it also include Kevin Lofton Park, the boat ramp down there, several others, Stowe Park. Stowe Park embankment enhancement, that's one that David came up with. That's the drop off of Main Street. It just drops off, and it's primarily landscaping and restoring that slope. Davis and Stowe Park playground equipment. This is replacement equipment, but this is ADA equipment, which is suitable for younger kids. So that's on the list. Stowe Park restroom update. We had good discussions about that. The existing bathroom facility, quite frankly, isn't large enough when we have our downtown events, and that's been an issue. So David had done some investigation into that. Also, when we have bands in town, they like to be given a space to prep, change clothes, do whatever they have to do, so that was part of the long-range plan. Linford Park, that's our North Belmont neighborhood. They have an ice park, but they don't have any playground equipment, so it got added to the list. And then Gant Park, I guess, ZIP has been tasked by people, whether we could get artificial turf for that park, so that project got added. He was looking, it's a low priority right now, and the deals he can find, you can get a 5-year loan from the installer. So
Is that turf that much?
I would say yes.
Probably, we've got 2 quotes, and the second one a little bit higher than that.
Really? Wow. Man.
The rest of them are water and wastewater. You can see those are all equipment, and those are shared equipment like the single axle dump truck will be shared with the wastewater collection division and the water distribution division. So what you see is half the cost of each of those 2 departments. And then crane truck, which would be shared with the water treatment division and the wastewater treatment division. Wastewater treatment maintains our pump stations, so that's why they need a crane.
Jerry, just as a note, since we have submitted this, the older crane truck that we have, that we bought for Duke for several years ago, has been in the shop twice. We're spending money on it, and there's this now.
So that's the list. I thought it would be easier to break it out as a separate thing rather than you try to figure out from the book what is new and what isn't. If you recall, the CIP numbers, ID numbers are based on the Department 2 or 3 alphabetical things for the department. Then the year that it's first put in there, so we've got it 2019, and that's what it is. And then the last 2 are the sequence order that these projects have been added. Those are it. Beyond that, the document looks pretty much the same as it has in the past. It's got the same layout. I've given you summary sheets, which Ryan's looking at right now. Instead of the Parks and Rec, I can tell by the color of the bar. And go from there. Our intent was, like we've done in the past, we can meet with the individual committees, kind of speed things up here. We thought, well, let's just meet with as many council members as we can at one time. And pretty much, this meeting is just to be open to any questions or discussions that anybody has. I do have, like I did last year, I've got a scorecard, so you can kind of take notes as we ask questions and so on. On the scorecard, the only boxes that I put checks in are the fiscal years that the staff picked out, but I left staff's priority listing. So you can kind of take notes. I don't know how much time you've been able to spend with the report that I gave you. Brian, I have a feeling you didn't have any time because yours was sitting right there on your desk. But that's the highlights as far as new projects, I think, are the key items. The projects that are rollovers from last year, you pretty much know about, you've heard of before. We will, May 1st, we will meet with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. And the Park and Rec's portion of this book does not reflect the new master plan. We haven't heard anything regarding that, so we expect there'll be more work done once we hear what the consultants have to tell us about certain aspects. I believe that most everything we have in the CIP are needed items, bathrooms, facilities, and things of that nature, so they will probably end up being in the master plan as well, I'm sure. Sid shared that with his consultants. But once we have this May 1st meeting, we'll have that board's, advisory board's opinions about what is more important than other things, and then we shift our priorities and set by staff as far as needs. So expect to hear more later on that. We'll get their opinion and decide. What I'd like to do is, I don't know how much time we'll have at our budget workshop next week, but if everybody had an opportunity to at least look through these documents, it might be a good, sequence-wise, timing-wise, be a good time to bring up any questions and try to resolve it so that this document, it's not adopted by city council, it's just a recommendation.
Yeah.
It's a recommendation from staff, but we'd like to have council input to go along with it, and city manager input on this. So what we'd like to have is when we get done, I can shift these pages and projects up and down, lists and around, and all that kind of stuff as you guys feel necessary. I would like a document that we all feel reflects what our needs are and when we'd like to see them get done.
I think the most important thing is, Jerry, and I appreciate all your work on that and staff's work too, and department heads. When you pick out these things as far as priorities and stuff like that, you pretty well discuss these things at length when you make these decisions on these things. So, I mean, I trust your judgment on that. You got some veterans here that have been here a long time, and, you know, I think they pretty well know what they need for the safety of the city and community. I think it's pretty good. You got anything you want to add?
It changes yearly too, because I'll sit down with David and Chuck for water, wastewater, and,
Yeah.
you know, a project that's been sitting on the list for years is given priority. It's time, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's time to move it up.
Yeah. Time is on our side, right? Chamber
I just
vote.
have one question of Buck. This is the question. That old idea of two stations, whatever happened, is that not plausible, you know, abandoning the one down here and putting one here and still be within 5 and 5?
In my opinion, when we set South Point Station in that location, that sealed the deal, but you think three.
Okay, but I know that was a talk years ago.
I wanted to share with you that that was the right thing to do, that we did. Because from the South Station to Worley River Road is 4.9 miles. That station's maxed out down where it's at.
Wow.
This Kinder Boulevard station's maxed out where it's at. Because Whitewater Circle is 4.9.
I know, been years ago that was talked about, wasn't it, Buck?
We beat it, and but when I think when they did that South Station, that said 3 is what you're gonna be.
That North Station, we've been talking about it since 2003.
Yeah, I know there was some discussion of putting another one up here kind of and getting, yeah.
I think with the way that the city's density is, 3 is gonna be the best that you could ever do.
So time-wise, yeah,
Yeah.
response time.
You get, you know, the rating system allows you to go out 5 miles, and
Right.
they rate you against 1.5 miles for an engine, and they give you 2.5 miles for a ladder. So it's really what it bases down to is it's still going to be the same amount of staff. If it's 2 or 3, I would say put it up there and get your response time, keep your response times down.
Also in the north area, north of the interstate, we've got a lot of vacant industrial land that's going to develop over a period of time. I think
Was the Abbey gonna work with us on land at one time, Buck?
We keep that, that's been my approach, is that they will, but when we talked about it this time, I said, I hope that's what happens, but if that's gonna happen, then let's put some ribbon down on the ground and say, this is it. That way, we quit worrying about it, and, because your prime locations, you know, in North Belmont coming back this way, if you get much past Acme, you went too far.
Yeah.
So, in this, you know, right now, you got a development at the Acme that's working, it'll take off and there won't be a spot. So, in my mind, there's only about 3 good spots. Now, the Abbey, I'd love to partner with them, to put a public safety facility there, and maybe even if they wanted to house something in it or something, you know. But if we can't get a firm commitment and something platted, then we should just buy something.
Let me ask you a question, Buck. That area where the theater was, and the building next to it right there, up in North Belmont, would that be a good location?
That's close. Because basically what you want to do is set the thing to where if it's 4.9 from here to there, where we're at today, make it 2.5 running back in.
Right.
You know, and 2.5 running back out, and then you still have 2.5 for future.
To me, that'd be a great location.
Yeah.
Who owns that building? Do you know where the old gym was?
And I don't know what that piece of property out where the water tank is, you know, how much around that piece is. Would work.
They could use some urban renewal.
You talking about going up Centerview?
Yeah, right where the city's elevated tower is
Right,
now.
right.
Because they were talking at one time, I thought I heard, splitting this thing out really was to put it in front of Shelley, because she deals with these folks constantly, and have it in her head that, you know, Greenway's nice, but if you need public safety, try to work that deal, or, so that was the other thought of doing it.
Yeah, if you could do it at the tower up there, that would be a good place too.
Anything right in that area is prime.
Centrally located.
Correct.
So you feel that's something that the city manager and staff needs to really pursue, because land's going to get taken up very quickly?
That was the intent of pulling it out.
Yeah.
I think the Abbey would, you know, from the conversations before, I think there's something there, but we just don't have it in stone.
There was some discussion about it when we helped them with the booster pump up there, or something for that facility in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
You may have an opportunity to negotiate with a big industrial user that might be moving up there that be willing to give us a corner of their property.
How much property do you need?
I've really never researched that, but, you know, I don't think Keener Boulevard sits on an acre. I don't think it does. I've never, because what I'm envisioning is a 2-bay location.
Yeah.
That's where Keener Boulevard has 3, South Point has 3, this should just need 2, and you should be able to do anything that you ever.
Would there be any opportunity EMS to also?
We don't want that.
You don't want that?
Not
Okay.
that we've got that down there, and they're not paying their portion, and they want to be inside that building. So I don't know that it would work if county government would pay their share, but I think, Adrian, maybe, I was trying to remember if they're paying $75 a month or something, it's not much.
It's not much.
It's not. And living with another fire department is a struggle. Living with, changing out people that you don't know is even that. I mean, it's like when I retire, hell, I'll be able to work in a daycare.
Did you get that?
That was
It's recorded.
So you're thinking a building about the size of the Limerick station? As far as the building itself, just with 2 bays?
It'd be a smaller footprint than that.
It'd be public safety, so we could have
It
a
wouldn't be
police
two-story,
office.
it'd be a single story, all.
Yeah, you'd have the land up there to do that with.
So Buck, it'd be a
Plenty of land
satellite
up there.
station?
My intent would be that the ladder would run out of that. this ladder's tight in this building,
Oh, yeah.
like you've seen it come in. You better not hop it or you're gonna hit the door.
But if it had access to Woodlawn,
That's the key.
that would be the best thing to do.
Well, your
Yeah.
industrial's up there too.
Well,
for
it's an
the
old
ladder.
theater, you know?
Not all paying, I don't know.
And you'd run your 85 district out of that instead of running it across, all the way across town to get to it.
We're,
Just let that one pick up.
we're clear on the contamination on that too, aren't we? Are we clear on that area up there?
For the most part, yes, sir.
Do you guys all feel like you've been heard by Jerry or Adrian, or is there anything else that needs to be said on this list that might not be represented the way that it needs to be represented, or any loss in translation, any safety issues we need to be aware of?
No, I built mine and handed it to him and he put it into his program.
Okay. I just don't want to, in 6 months, say, hey, well, I tried to get that in there, but I couldn't, but,
Yeah.
okay.
So Adrian, you see that as a priority to his land acquisition up there?
Yes, sir. So that's what the fire chief says.
So when we
I
did
think that'd be
the,
great.
when we did the tax increase, that was all based on paying on specific projects. Are all those covered as planned in this budget?
Yes.
In this list?
No,
They are,
they're in this list that was in the budget
I
last year.
think we covered every
Most-
item that's in there, but the priority in the fiscal year may have changed from what Adrian presented last year, based on, again, need and, staff's feeling when certain projects move forward, others could go back.
So there are a few new projects that are submitted that Jerry's handout here would have that are not included in the 5-year plan. So that's why, now that we're in year 2 with the 5-year plan, I wanted to pick this back up because, we've completed projects, new projects are coming up, the priorities of existing projects are gonna change. Some of these things that are grant funded or somehow funded with external dollars, when that money's available, it doesn't matter the priority, we gotta do it.
So was for example, the fire engine 433, was that,
No, that's new.
why was that not in there a year ago when you were putting together your thing?
Because you're purchasing an engine now, so there was an engine in it and it'll be delivered in May.
Okay,
All right, so then that engine will take 431's place. 431 will go to 433. 433 will become reserve. That's the 96 now that you're looking at.
Okay.
So our instructions was if it was in a 10-year projection, that we need to put it on there.
well, I mean, it just, like, that one sticks out because it's the first thing on here to me that's over 500,000, and, I mean, how are we supposed to do our 5-year budget if we got things like that popping up a year later?
Well, that's all we need to know about them, so that we can put them in the budget.
That's why you.
But that's
But you're trying to put it in within the 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just shifted each year. So we're finishing year 1. So next year's year 2, which becomes year 1 of a moving 5-year range. So that replacement engine was not a priority last year because you'd already approved the purchase of a new
Right.
fire engine.
Right.
Which Chief says is under construction now. So this is just a new priority.
So what you're saying, you have to make adjustments based on present
Right.
needs. Let me ask you a question about Parks and Rec. I see in there about the Civic Center. Is that just the initial planning stage of it?
You see what in there about the Civic Center?
It's $1.7 million.
No, that's a number that Zip had come up with. That's our, yes, Civic Center and Gymnasium. He'd come up with a cost, well, it's got $6 million in there, but we had it shown on here as 5-year financing, which is close to $2 million a year if you look at the actual.
The only thing I'd like to mention about that is consideration. I know that's a big project, it'll cost a lot of operating funds and all that. I would hope that you built the budget on some of the numbers that you expressed the other day, even though they were low. And I would hope that we could build up our fund balance, so a big project like that, instead of taking a big loan for it, we could take a couple years, build our fund balance up, and push some money into it. I mean, that's what I would hope when I look at this, because I hope you build your budget on the numbers that were low, so we can at least get our fund balance up to 40%.
So, there's a couple comments I'll make on that. So the recreation center is in the 5-year plan. Now, I've got it as a 20-year loan, not a 5-year loan, just because a 5-year loan on an $8 million building is going to be, we couldn't afford those annual debt service payments. So I'd like to, so maybe somewhere between 5 and 20 years, just depending on what the banks are doing. But I wanted us to spend this year talking about the rec center, which we've done with the Parks and Rec Board, and then put in some money at the second half of next year to hire a consultant, an architect, or somebody to help us design a building, and then start the construction in the year 2020, 2021. And by then, we will have built up our fund balance. We can help with that. But our debt service payments would start then. But that's something that the Parks and Rec Master Plan and the Parks and Rec Board will make recommendations on. And so we'll get into more of this next Monday, but based on keeping the current tax rate the same, and based on updated information from the county tax office regarding exemptions and appeals from the revow, we'll be able to build our fund balance up from 30% to 40% over the next 5 years, and then add the staff that we were requesting, and take care of all our operations, and fund the CIP. If you look, we're looking at, in the current year's budget, we're looking at next year of $1.5 million worth of capital projects, and so we'll be able to do that. So if we wanted to change the tax rate, then obviously we just figure out what we don't want to do. But we have a plan to fund all of your priorities, and we'll go over that in more detail next Monday.
The location of the recreation center would be down near Lofton Park.
Well, we haven't decided yet, but
Well,
it
it's
makes
changed-
sense.
It's
Yeah.
changed in here based
Okay.
on specific David's thought that this was better, put it right in front of the public works.
That's what I thought we were
Right.
gonna do, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't made a decision, but that's the direction we're headed.
Okay.
I think your Parks and Rec list is a hot mess
Well,
as far as priorities go.
it's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's almost $25 million worth of projects.
Yeah, I think this needs some serious work, and it needs to be based on that study that we just did.
And it will be.
But, I mean, so why is the rail trail 3 years out? Is that realistic?
No, it should start next year, and I've got it funded. In the budget, I've got it funded starting this upcoming fiscal year.
Okay. But it looks like
It's just not matched up in the CIP.
Okay.
That's one of those things where when the project's ready, the funding's there, we'll do it.
But we gotta make sure the funding's there.
Staff reviewed this without really consideration of the budget. They based it on their perception of need.
So
I guess we just estimated wrong.
Yeah, Ryan, on one of those, just an example for the Parks and Rec, he just mentioned you'll notice there's a new one on there called the Stowe Park Restaurant Renovation. And that's brand new. That's a result of, one, obviously, of the amount of traffic that that park receives now, plus all the activities that's going on in downtown. But the main caveat to that is we we're under a program now with the state. We're doing the city's inventory for ADA assessments, and that facility does not meet those requirements. You can get through the doors.
which number is that?
It's up there at the top. It's right there about, what this says, Stowe Park restrooms update, number 8.
Okay.
So, and that restroom currently doesn't meet ADA.
David,
You can get through the doors, but once you get through the doors, you can't turn a wheelchair around. You can't
Really?
get to the stalls, the sinks.
all right, question for you about that. You don't have to be ADA unless you go to do some changes down there, then you have to comply. Is that correct?
Yep. So we just added that too. That's just an item that's just been brought up to us recently, so we put that on.
Okay.
The Parks and Rec Board they may not want it, I don't know, but the city knows we need it.
Yeah.
So
That facility was built-
we're not out of compliance.
Yeah, it was built in
No.
'96 by the Rotary Club, and nothing's been done to it since then.
So Ryan, if you're looking at the CIP book versus what we've got in the budget, the CIP book, kind of think of this as the universe of projects that we like to do over the next 5 years plus, if costs were not a factor. So we take that and will it down into the 5-year CIP budget that we adopt, or that is included in your actual budget. So this spreadsheet doesn't have everything that's in this book. So last year you asked me to take the top priorities that I thought we needed to accomplish over the next 5 years and put it in the budget, which is what I did with input from the staff. So there's a lot of things on here that are not that don't include items from the CIP. So now that we've given you a revised list of all the projects that we'd like to do, if we could, what I'd like for the council is to give us direction. Are there projects that are included in the overall CIP program but are not listed in the budget spreadsheet that you want us to add to it? Or are there things that we said we wanted that were a priority last year that a year later we don't really need to do? One of which would be the middle school reimbursement. So we wanted to pay ourselves back if we had to take money out of fund balance to contribute toward the middle school. And because Michelle did such a good job last year, we didn't have to take it out of fund balance, we paid it out of cash. So that'll be an item that we'll take out of the budget part, because we don't need to reimburse ourselves for that.
Yeah, I think what we said last year was for you to take this wish list and look at it as the manager and come up with recommendations and priorities for us. So the wish list is what everybody thinks they want, whether they need it or not, and you decide and recommend to us what you think is needed.
Yes, sir.
I think we need everything in the wish book.
Adrian, can I say something?
Of course.
One of the things I think is beneficial, and Mr. Tripp had asked a question, what I think is beneficial for us is, as we do know, we try to project these things. Last year, I kind of had an idea of what was about to happen with 800 megahertz radio system with the county. So I asked for the handheld radios last year, the car radios this year. We got notification back some months ago that they're going live July 1. So we would have been, rather than splitting that up between 2 years, we would have been, July 1, we would have been spending to buy both of those sets of radios. So that projection actually really helped us to split that up, and that was through working through the project here.
There is one other item that's not included in the CIP book, and it's come into us here in the last couple weeks. As you know, we've been working with South Main Cycles Station. Steve Pepitone is the owner, and he wants to build another building on Glenway Street. And his cost estimates of doing that project have come in higher than what they anticipated. There's a couple issues there that we're working with him to resolve, but one of which is the streetscape improvements that were required. Sidewalks, a retaining wall, curb and gutter, landscaping, and street lighting. And we were requiring him to do that in front of his new building, which he's going to have to do as part of the zoning ordinance. But also, we wanted him to extend that all the way down Glenway Street to tie into Main Street, so that you would have a continuous sidewalk that's down Main Street and then turns down Glenway and would tie into Glenway Street on the back side of his property. He has requested that we partner with him on that public infrastructure component to that, and if you look at the frontage of Glenway Street and the amount of improvements he'd have to make, about half of that is existing there now, and then half would be new, which he would be responsible for. So he's got a cost estimate of $180,000 to do that full project for the streetscaping. So I think it would be fair that we like we did just on the north side of Main Street.
Yeah.
That's an existing area that we put in the sidewalks and everything. And we partner with him on that, so that he's paying for the improvements in front of his new building, and we would pay for the improvements in front of the existing building. Because that will be for a public benefit. So I just would plug in $100,000, just in case he goes over a little bit. His numbers would be $90,000 apiece. But that would be a way to help get that project moving forward. So he's trying to pencil everything down. There's some code issues that he's working through to make sure that project's realistic, so that we can get that building built starting here in the next few months.
It's a little more expensive than what we would have like a North Main Street, because he's got to build a retaining wall and then put the sidewalk on top of it, which also needs a railing and things like that. So it'll be very attractive. It looks nice, but it's a little more costly to try to sneak a sidewalk in.
So we're wanting him.
He's given us a big easement on his property.
Question for you, Jerry. With the proximity to the railroad tracks for the rail line, would that have a lot of vibration problems as far as the stability of it right there?
I don't think it'd be any problem.
You don't think it'd be any problem?
Can we do some sort of enhancement on the retaining wall?
It's brick.
Okay, can we do something,
Yeah,
because that's gonna be like an entryway when you're driving into Main Street.
Right, you're driving.
It's not gonna be real tall, and it'll look pretty much like our planters.
What do you think?
I was just thinking if you could have Belmont put in there in brick or something like that might look nice. I'd be supportive of this, but I think it would only be if we could accelerate the timeline of the project.
Yes.
So we would use this as a way to make him break ground and get after it, so we can get the money back from tax dollars. I don't want to commit any money if this is going to drag out for 6 months or 9 months or a year, but.
Yeah, so, I don't review his books, but from meeting with him, there are two main issues that he's got to resolve in order to make this a real project, and this is one of them. So if he can get this cost down and another code cost down, which it looks like it's going to be able to work that out, then it's a realistic project and he's ready to go. And if we can't do it, then he's got to figure out how to finance it, and it may not appraise for what it's going to cost him to build it. So this is one of those things that it really is an economic development project as much as it is public infrastructure improvements. That'll benefit everybody, not just his project. So yeah, I think it would meet what you're saying.
So you just have a memorandum of understanding then, right?
Right.
That's what we need to draw up.
Right. And so
We need
a developer agreement with him on what his responsibility is, and it would be a lot easier for him to have his contractor do the whole project, and we reimburse him for a portion of that when he's finished.
So you could include in that memorandum suggestion of timelines.
Yes.
How's this business doing, Adrian, down there?
I don't know. The station seems to be doing really well. I haven't gone in to see about the bike shop part of it.
You see where Gastone's doing away with their bikes, or Charlotte is? They're going to scooters.
Yes, sir.
Scooters are the thing. So
Instead of the dockless bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that technology is changing quickly.
So on the Park Street, Catawba Street pedestrian crossing improvements, is there a reason why that's 2122? Could that be moved up faster?
So Shelley and I met with DOT about that a couple weeks ago, and in the category of nothing is easy. There's a signal box and 2 utility poles and guy wires where the ADA compliant ramp to get that crosswalk would need to be located. So they would need to relocate 2 utility poles and the guy wire and the signal box in order to get the ADA ramp to build the crosswalk across Park Street. They don't have enough right-of-way to relocate that outside of the right-of-way. So we would need to acquire an easement from the corner parcel on the southwest corner of that intersection. But it's a hill, right? If you next time you just kind of look at it, there's a lot going on in that little corner. So we've got to figure out right-of-way issues, easement issues, utility relocation issues before we can get that done. If we can figure all that out, they're willing to put in. They understand the issue and the need for the crosswalk. But there's a lot of kind of background stuff that has to happen first.
Who owns that property, Adrian?
I don't know offhand.
It makes more sense to me to do that before we do the street improvements in the river district.
Yes.
Because then you would just
You
kind of
gotta get to it.
keep moving forward.
The street improvements in the river district is in 2 phases also.
And I've actually got that crosswalk improvement or the pedestrian improvements in next year's budget. So it's a higher priority in the actual budget than it is in the CIP.
Did the Parks and Rec Board come up with the priority rankings for this?
No.
And they'll do that May 1st. This is, I guess this is staff recommendation. And they will prioritize it themselves.
Do they have are we going to give them a budget?
No.
So how do they prioritize?
So,
They will prioritize and they'll let us know what their top priorities are. And, I mean, I've got several Parks and Rec related items already in the 5-year budget. So there'll probably be a lot of overlap.
so I guess they'll give us suggestions.
Yes, yeah, they're an advisory board, so they'll give us their suggestions.
That's what I mean, they'll give us suggestions.
Right.
I think it'd be easier if we gave them a budget and then they came back to us. Because then they could package it up. But
My experience with them is they don't care about.
well, maybe that's why they're so disappointed.
They're looking at facilities that they feel.
Well, it all depends if you're a basketball fan or a soccer fan too. So I'd rather do suggestions.
We're gonna get new basketball courts at the middle school, right? Painted for that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna share those.
We don't know what our consultant's gonna tell us, whether we should share those.
I will note that just under half of all the capital funding in next year's budget is going to go to Parks and Rec. So, I mean, they're getting more as a percentage than any other department. Some of that is because we've been behind in Parks and Rec for a long time, and we're catching up, but we've just had a lot of deferred projects. And that's a big issue of importance for us as we're growing and have quality of life stuff, so we want to have recreational opportunities. So I can give them the amount of money that I've got set aside in next year's budget for Parks and Rec and tell them that's all they have.
I think it'd be wise not to do that.
I'll also note that in the stormwater section, under our current stormwater fee structure, we don't have any money to do any of these projects. So I'll address that with you next week. It's a way to get some of that taken care of. And as I told you in my email report either last week or the week before, when we have these huge downpours, there's really nothing we can do about that. But our stormwater projects are designed for a normal, typical rain event. So I don't want to have an expectation that when we get these 2 and 3 inch rains in an hour, we're going to solve that. But we do have some long-standing drainage issues that we can address.
I think everybody in this whole area is suffering from that though too, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Not alone. Anybody have anything else?
Do you have any questions for staff, or do y'all have anything that you
Can I
want?
provide an update on the Main Street kiosk phase 2?
Yeah.
It's more than just a kiosk. That's only one kiosk. Over the Glenway Street parking area, if you park or walk over there, it's not a very pedestrian-friendly area, so people are actually walking in the middle of the parking lot and in the middle of the street before you actually get to a sidewalk. So that proposal is more of a streetscape enhancement. It's creating a real plaza. There's 2 points of entry and exit into the parking lot. So in the middle of that would be creating a plaza. put sidewalks on both sides, so
Yeah.
that if someone does park there, they're actually walking on a sidewalk to get to another area. And so it's streetscape, landscape, and, just, and sidewalks. So that's much more than just a kiosk. And I've actually written a grant for $35,000 to cover the cost of the kiosk. And so if we get that funded, the project would have to be completed by the end of November of this year.
Good. That's good. All right.
Any other thoughts or comments from staff?
Now, I was pleased with what we've done in the last couple of years, to look at what's been taken off the list, that's a lot of projects that will be, we're pleased to get those out of the way. Now we got these on board, got to look at those too.
I think overall, we've made pretty good progress with some of the things we have. Yeah. That's
I've
good.
got a
Huh?
lot of compliments on the new decorative signage around town.
Yeah,
If everybody wants to, we got them in the district.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I would like to have give input on the Belmont Abbey booster generator. The reason we're asking for that, we share a generator now with the Clay Street lift station. That generator is portable. We had an incident twice in these storms where we lost power at Belmont Abbey, and we also lost power at Clay Street. So we had to juggle back and forth what we were going to do.
Yeah.
One was a life issue, and the other was a fine issue. And the life went out over the fine. Wins out every time. Life safety issue, but that, when they don't have any power, we need to power those pumps, so
Yeah.
those dormitories can have their fire protection over there. So, just so y'all know, we escaped, we didn't get a fine, we escaped it, we had both of our pump trucks, and we had to spend other money for pump trucks, but it was a better choice to do that than it was for us. The only caveat to that is that the Abbey will not let us permanently park that generator there.
Oh,
So we will have that generator stored, and when we lose power, we will hot foot it over there, and we don't have to take it away. We won't have to take it away from Clay Street.
yeah,
It'll be a little smaller, the one at Clay Street. We did have to go up there a little bit once it dried up enough. We thought it dried up enough. We went to go fix it, and then we're going to fix it again. But when it's a life issue and a fine issue, we choose life, and that's just basically what we have to do. We maintained, we didn't get a fine, but that possibility was there for us the whole time. That's why we put that in there, and we'll just keep it and keep it stored
yeah.
at the water plant somewhere, and when that happens, our maintenance staff will get it over there, get it hooked up, and get it running as fast as we can.
So you'd rather have it portable than on site?
They won't let us have one on site.
Well, if they want to, he can shut down the dorm, can't you, Buck? You tell them they have to get out.
They won't let us have one on site. That's why we were doing what we were doing.
What's the logic behind that, Chuck?
It doesn't look good.
Yeah,
They need to give us a site for books,
That's the only logic?
fire stations, and we'll just park
You
it
could
there.
shut, you,
When Jerry was planning this, we tried to plan a generator, and they turned it down.
Wait, is there a liability issue there?
but let me ask you a
On their part,
question.
yes, sir, on that part, yes, sir.
If they don't have power and the dorm doesn't have the booster pump and all, wouldn't you say it can't be occupied?
I think if we can't resolve this before the next dorm that's gonna be built, I can resolve it then. Because what we've done, we haven't treated the booster pump station as a fire pump. But by law, by building code, since we did give them, we're counting on that pump, it's a fire pump. So it needs to be permanently installed and come on automatic.
So there really shouldn't be a decision of Belmont Abbey then, should it?
Is that owned by the city?
We own the pump station, they own the property.
It would be like, I don't know, I'd have to put a pencil to it, because if Chuck loses power for the city down there, and he has no pumps,
Yeah.
then nobody has fire protection. So, and I can't make him put one, but, so since the city owns that, if that was privately owned, I could make him. I got one.
Who was the person that told you no?
Who are we dealing with that? Basically, the information was given to us, was conveyed to us through the representatives we were talking to, but they said it came from the admin.
That seems like it's a negotiation between the fire chief and.
That sounds like a detail that we can resolve.
Yeah.
It does sound like something that can be resolved.
But I just want to clarify why that was a new item that popped up on the list this year.
Let me get my land deal first.
But to me though, that's a serious safety issue right there.
It
Even
is.
if the
Very serious safety issue.
Abbey allowed us to park a portable generator on their site, so we wouldn't be hauling it over town.
We can set it up where it'll be automatic.
Who are you dealing with over there, Jim?
Well, we've been dealing with.
It's been years
right now. It's
ago.
been years.
That-
So really, that thing ought to kick in when you don't have power.
It should, in my opinion, that should be a stationary screen generator, just like in fire station.
If I can get, if we can do that, we can get one, we might be able to get one of those. Because I think they have natural gas up there. And I can get down gas generator natural gas.
I'm sure we can find a way to address their concerns.
Yeah,
Through
okay,
screening and sound and all that stuff.
Right.
Still,
Question for you.
Negotiate.
Can you write that out for me?
It's not a negotiation.
Let me take it to somebody over there.
that's what we need to do.
Can you do that? If you could write that out for me and I'll take it to somebody over there?
We'll work that out. And that's in the scheme of your CIP stuff, that's a low-cost project that we need to get done.
But for
I
safety's
just want
sake.
to make sure they understood why, all
Yeah.
of a sudden, we've had generators on there for years.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that generator came up at an existing facility that we didn't already have.
Yeah.
We could take them down to a Conservancy pump station, and turn that generator on so that they can see that it's not nearly as noisy as they think it's going to be.
Well, they don't complain when that big one's running, and it makes a noise. But they know why it's running.
So that's something that staff needs to work out in relationship to the fire department.
But regardless, we still need a generator. It still needs to be.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the council?
Everybody good? All right,
Well, that was the purpose of our meeting, so.
very good.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
You got a motion, got a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Even though we don't have a quorum.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jerry, if you knew who you're dealing with over there, then I'd like to be involved in that. That's a safety issue, I get it.
We're not dealing with
It's hard for me
Are we still live?
to process why the rail trail, for example.
But to me, there would be a liability on the school's part.
The rail trail is prioritized at number 18. And your thing here is, literally, it should be right at the top of the list. So,